Edecha Bet Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Ubizman Karib, Vimeru, Amen. Yeheshme Rabba Mevorach, Le'alam Elam Mehamaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitromam, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Shemedu Kudsham,
Berichu,
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata,
Tushbechata v'nechemata, Da'amihan be'alma.
B'imeru.
Amen. We continue on page 146 with the Baruch Hu.
Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai. Yai, lai, 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 lai,
Seated if you wish. Please join with me on page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Praised are you, O God, who brings on the evening.
Ahavat olam, Bet Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Otanu limadta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu, u'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. גאוותך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמי. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Praised are you, O God, who loves his people Israel, as we rise for the Shema.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu
Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Yevod Malchuto Leolam Haba. You may be seated. Please join with me on page 154 if you wish. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, ואתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני Adonai Elohechem. I'm continuing on page 159. Sing a song of men and women joined in understanding and respect the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, for soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedam b'kodesh, norati hilot osefela. Ra'u v'necha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam ze Elianu anu ve'ameru Adonai who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai.
I'm continuing on page 161. Please join with me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, va'al kol amo Yisrael, va'al Yerushalayim.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu, ve'al amo Yisrael. Yerushalayim, ve'al kol amo.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind. There is joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night as eternity utters a day. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael on page 162.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et
The central prayer of our worship service is the tefillah and sometimes called the Amidah, which means to stand. And so we rise on page 164 for the tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftahu fi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, V'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'hanora, El Elyon,
Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות
ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מחכה לחיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מחמוך בגבורות. ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל.
ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
אתה קדוש, שמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה.
ברוך אתה אדוני, You may be seated. I'm continuing on page 173. You may join me if you wish. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu Be'amcha Yisrael U'tefilatam Be'ahava Avodat Yisrael Lamecha El Karuv L'chol Kore'av Pnei El Avatav Shefok Ha'am V'techazim Eininu B'shuv Adonai Eloheinu
technology is a wonderful thing. Okay? So as you know, we're being live streamed. Okay? Which is wonderful. But the problem with technology is that when something goes wrong, Stella comes running. So first we had no audio. We fixed that. I don't know why. I just work here. And then, for the first time since I started playing guitar, somebody told me my guitar was too loud. My mother used to say, would you please go downstairs? Actually, what she really said was, we want you to play solo. So low we can't hear it. Okay? So they just called Stella. And they said, the guitar is too loud. So I thank you, Livestream, for telling us that the guitar is too loud. That's why I'm walking back. We're still getting used to this, But I'm so grateful that we all have a sense of humor about it. And even if I missed a chord canter, I was a little verschummelt, which is a great word. But I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for so much. I'm grateful for the community. And there is a lot to be grateful for. So I'm going to ask you what you're grateful for, and you need to know that they won't hear you, but I will. Because I'm the one with the microphone. Colleen, hi.
I'm grateful that my viewers is getting better.
Oh, really?
I'm starting to recognize the effects.
Way to go. Way to go. Yeah? You reading well?
I'm thankful for my viewers.
Yeah, way to go. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. I'll give you a test next week. Raina, hi. Your family always, absolutely. Who else is grateful for what? We have so many people. Yeah, Barbara.
Well, my granddaughter's going to be 15 tomorrow. My son was yesterday, and
Your son was yesterday?
59. How could that be?
Well, I'm 62.
I was 62. I don't know how he's 59.
Right. My mother would say she's 29 Celsius. She was delighted when Canada went into the metric system.
Yes, and it's his birthday weekend. He has to be over. We're going to have brunch.
Passover is going to be over.
It was brunch.
Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Did anybody find that the matzah this year was burnt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't just us. There was a brand of matzah that was burnt. Yeah.
It was. I thought it was once mine.
Yeah, it was burnt. Now everybody knows. Anybody else? Stella? Anybody? No? Baruch atah Adonai. Hatov shimcha ulachana el hodot. Praised are you, O God, to whom it is fitting that we give thanks.
Alam Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Yatah Melech Adon
that was soft enough. That's the lowest I could play. We will pray our own prayers in a moment, but before we do, we pray for those who are ill, and we include them in our own prayers for people that we will offer in a minute. This evening we pray for the full recovery of Sharon Goodman, Sue Freeman, and Stacy Hayes. And are there any other names that you would like? Feel free to just say their names. We pray for all of their healing as we continue on page 511 with the Mishaberach, and then a moment of some silent meditation.
Mishaberach Avotinu Mekor HaBracha Limotinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotinu Mekor HaBracha Lavotinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Please take a moment for some personal and some silent meditation.
Yehiyu liratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanacha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri vegoali לגואלי.
So for some reason, the Asbury Park Press put in the article this morning that my sermon was 17 pages long. So somebody asked me, I hope that the print is at least 25 point. But it's good to laugh, because as you know, it's often said that life can change in the blink of an eye. And anyone who has experienced a sudden death or any kind of life-changing surprise knows this. Life can change in the blink of an eye. That's why, what was it, 4 weeks ago, I'm glad my eyes didn't blink when Stella's phone dinged as she got a message from her sister, who was married to one of my colleagues. The text was an innocuous message about her husband going to Poland on what can only be described as a witness-bearing trip, almost literally slapped together by a couple of American rabbis. It was anything but a conventionally organized trip. In fact, let me teach you a new Hebrew word. Colleen, this is for you. Balagan. A balagan is complete chaos, or so it seemed. It was an on-the-fly, on-the-run humanitarian mission that had absolutely no hallmarks of a vacation. And Stella said, you need to go. And so, in the blink of an eye, and without any experience in Poland, the plane tickets were bought, the reservations in the hotel confirmed, and again, in a blink of an eye, with almost no time to prepare myself, I called Wendy as the president, and I said, Stella wants me to go to Poland, and Wendy said, go. I'm beginning to wonder about all these people sending me overseas. But the temple was behind me, and they were excited, and it was an easy job to get the temple excited. They collected underwear, they collected pain medication, and we collected more than $15,000. In a strange way, the speed at which everything happened faintly echoed the plight of the Ukrainians we were destined to meet. The support of Beth, Miriam, and their enthusiastic endorsement for me to go gave me the necessary strength, emotional and physical, to bear witness to this unbelievable human tragedy. How can I not be energized when a professional firm offered their PR person both before and after the trip to do all the work of getting the message out? Or seeing our religious school students selling lemonade on the streets of Little Silver, or bringing in bags of change from their tzedakah boxes, or the bags of goods that for women and children that were to come with me. It is not hyperbole to say that knowing how supportive every one of you was for this trip, I would not have been able to get there and back and survive for 5 days on literally 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night. In the blink of an eye, your lives changed as you literally changed the lives of a Ukrainian stranger whom you had never met and most likely never will. But in a way you did meet them. And I'm sharing them as I was sharing them with you because when I went to Poland, you came to Poland with me. The people you helped are the few people who are among the 2.25 million people who escaped from Ukraine to Poland. 150,000 of them found themselves in Krakow, where we stayed. Before the war, Krakow had 650,000 people. Now, Krakow has 800,000. And among those, I met some incredible people, and I only want to share 2 of them. Okay, maybe 3. Zosia, as you may have seen from my Facebook posts, is an 86-year-old or 88-year-old. There's some dispute about that. She was born in Krakow and in 1939, Poland was the first country invaded by Nazi Germany. But she never left the city. Somehow, in one of those unbelievable war stories, her father got her family fake papers, and they were never found or deported by the Nazis. Literally, in the shadow of Oskar Schindler's factory, which saved 1,200 Jews, Zosia and her family stayed alive simply because they were good actors. She is one of those rare people who speaks 6 languages. She speaks to Ukrainians all day. She has a criminal law degree. And she works at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center in Krakow, getting these people oriented. But she said something interesting that we heard several times on the trip. In the southeast of Ukraine, the main language is not Ukrainian, it's Russian. And when these people left and ended up in Poland, each and every one of these people that we met vowed never to speak Russian again. They have utter disdain for the country. Zosia, too, who speaks fluent Russian, despises what that language now represents. Zosia is typical of the way that the Poles have responded to the crisis. Our group of 24, 25 rabbis went to 3 crisis centers, and in each one there were hundreds of refugees, women and children, and almost no men. There for a few days before going to either a government-paid-for hotel or to private families which have absorbed these people. These people were immediately absorbed into the country, and most of the work that is being done by volunteers, like Zosia. There were almost no professionals. Teenagers staffed the phone banks. Journalists ran call centers. JCC directors ran crisis response team. No one did it for the glory. No one did it for the accolades. No one did it for their bar mitzvah project. All of this gargantuan effort was organized in 1 week by Polish volunteers and the Polish governments, local and national, and 7 or 8 weeks into this war, those volunteers literally have saved millions of lives. And so, why the incredible response? When we Jews think of Poland, what usually comes to mind? The what? The war, right. Concentration camps, right? In fact, when I was in Warsaw, home of the infamous Warsaw Ghetto, and waiting for my plane to Krakow, the board listed all of the flights. And so help me God, every one of those places on the board was known for a concentration camp, including Krakow, my destination. How can we not think of Poland this way? And for the past 7 decades, the Poles knew how the world saw them. Most of the concentration camps, not all, but most of the concentration camps that the Jews perished in, that Poles perished in, that Roma perished in, that gay people perished in, that gypsies perished in, most of them were in Poland. Krakow was where all of the terrible things from Schindler's List happened. Auschwitz was 1.5 hour drive from my hotel. And in every small town that we went through, every Jew was exterminated. Now, only monuments remain where Jews lived and thrived. Where in a town like Przemyśl, which is right on the Ukrainian border, was once 1/3 Jewish, now no Jews remain. To be known primarily for that is overwhelming. But the Poles were not defined by the Nazi aggression inflicted upon them. The one thing that did define them was anger. Anger that in 1939, nobody came to their aid. They were determined that what no one did for them in 1939, they would not do in 2022 to the Ukrainians. This war, if there is anything good to come out of it, was an exercise of redemption and resolve for the Polish people. Is it a perfect response? No. We are talking about governments, we are talking about people with its echoes of racism and prejudice. But the simple fact is that with 2.25 million new residents who in the blink of an eye had to leave their home in the past 7 or 8 weeks, not one refugee is in a tent in a refugee camp. And there are no tent cities on the Ukraine side of the border. Not one. Now I want to tell you about Nastia. Nastia, with her 5-year-old daughter, left Mykolaiv, which is in the southeast of the country. Remember that Russian-speaking part of the country? Yeah. Leaving her husband and her parents behind, and I think she was in her last year of medical school, she found herself being a mom on a Monday and a refugee on a Tuesday as her city got leveled to the ground. And quite understandably, she is angry. But unlike other Ukrainians we met, she is mad at every Russian soldier. She told us that it is not Putin who is shooting people, who was raping her friends, who was destroying cities. It is the Russian soldiers. And she says to try to exonerate them is to let them off the hook for their barbaric behavior. But her biggest problem was not the relocation. No, the fact that her home does not exist anymore is not her biggest problem. No, the fact that she will have to learn Polish to finish medical school, that's not her biggest problem. No, her biggest problem was how to teach her daughter not to hate. It was a stunning statement, and that will remain with me for the rest of my life. And how easy it is to hate. But in the midst of all this potential to hate, I saw amazing acts of love and respect. A couple of days before our Friday Seders back in the United States, we did a Seder in a border town of Peshem. More than 250 people came to the Seder. The rabbis were there. Emergency workers were there. Ukrainian refugees were there. Volunteers from the area were there. Medical workers were there, and so forth. And just as we were about to get started, several young Ukrainians came in dressed in their customary dress. Okay? And anybody know what the customary dress of Ukraine is? No? Okay, I'm going to tell you. If you have ever seen the picture of a Cossack, that's exactly what these people look like. The women were wearing flower crowns, which is called, I had to Google this, a plachta, which is an embroidered shirt, and the men wore a porti, which is kind of like a long kaftan kind of a thing that covered their whole body down to their knees. Now, they looked like Cossacks. If you know the history of the Cossacks, you know that they were not very nice to Jews. Okay? That's an understatement. One of the Ukrainian personalities, really a hero for his resistance to Poland in the 17th century, was a man named Hetman Chmelnytsky, who from 1648 to 1657 led a rebellion against Poland's hegemony over Ukraine. And it ended up with the Cossacks swearing allegiance to the Tsar of Russia. There won't be a test, I promise. But during this time of that uprising, between 100,000 and 500,000 Jews were massacred. Cossacks and Jews have a very tense history. But these young people celebrated a Jewish festival of freedom, with a costume that came to represent for them Ukrainian independence. If Chmelnytsky could see this, he would be rolling in his grave. And of course, being the shy person that I am, I had to go speak with them. And so at the end of the Seder, I did just that. I met Igor, a 30-year-old Ukrainian living in Poland for the past few years. Diana, an 18-year-old about to start college and that had to flee. Daniel, a 24-year-old born in Kiev who moved to Australia and who spoke Ukrainian with an Australian accent. All of these people had come from all points to dedicate themselves, to put their lives on hold, to build a brick in a new world. They celebrated Passover, our festival of freedom, and turned it into their own festival of freedom. The bread of affliction that we ate was their pain. The moror was their bitterness. The wine was their sweetness and optimism that they are helping to create a new life for their country, men and women. And the parsley was their symbol of new life. The Seder was not simply a ritual or a chance to have a meal and 4 glasses of wine. It was a living moment that none of them will ever forget. More than 250 people celebrated that meal, and most of them were not Jewish. And of all of those people, every one of us saw the Seder and Passover not simply as a ritual to be observed, but as a ritual of renewal, of dedication, and of freedom from an oppression that was happening a mere 10 kilometers from where we sat. Oh, and one more thing about the Seder. Remember Nastya, the young woman with the 5-year-old who had to leave her parents and her husband back in Ukraine? An hour before the Seder, Nastya received words that her parents had made it to Poland. If that isn't a Passover festival of freedom to remember, I don't know what is. Now, the trip was not a vacation. I sat on the floor of a depot sorting clothes and pain relievers that ended up in the hands of the Ukrainian refugees. Every single thing that all of you donated was given to a mother or a child. The toys that I brought over are now in the hands of an infant or a toddler, a young child in Poland. The underwear, which, by the way, is the most needed and valued item for obvious reasons, is now being worn by the few men and hundreds of women and children who now have to rebuild their lives and are. The $15,000 Beth Miriam raised out of an astonishing $750,000 our group raised is paying for food, shelter, professional counseling that every refugee will need. What we did in Elberon, New Jersey, changed the lives of Ukrainians in Poland. I want to share another story. Krakow was a center of Jewish life in Europe before World War II. Of the 65,000 Jews in Krakow, almost none survived. But there is a beautiful Jewish quarter in Krakow that is still intact. Krakow, piece of trivia, was not bombed during the war by either the Germans, by the Russians, or by the Americans. It is a medieval city that remains a medieval city. It's almost like the Jewish quarter was waiting patiently to come alive again. And I'm happy to report that it is. Jews from Ukraine and Poland are rediscovering their Jewish connections in Krakow thanks to the extraordinary work of the Jewish Community Center, the only JCC to have been established, paid for, and supported by Prince Charles of England, who gets regular reports on its work. These Ukrainian Jews specifically can rebuild their Jewish lives, and the Polish Jews, many of whom had families that had to go underground during the Soviet era, are beginning to blossom and discover who they are and where they come from. It is an extraordinary transformation. Krakow is coming alive Jewishly once again, and its Jewish spirit is returning, thanks to the Jewish organizations, thanks to the JCC, and also the sense that Poland, of all places, is again a safe place for Jews. But no matter what difficulties the Jews of Poland face, what challenges the Ukrainians in Poland face, and what the political and social dynamics have yet to reveal, the world has truly come together to do something extraordinary. To see Jews and Gentiles from Israel, Mexico, Australia, the United States, Canada, Honduras, Poland, Russia, Spain, and the Czech Republic, and so many others that I met from points all over the world, tell me that the Jewish idea of tikkun olam, the perfecting of the world, is alive and well. The trip was called Hineni. Rabbis always have to come up with a clever word. Hineni is a biblical phrase that is used by God to call a prophet. It literally means, here I am. But it is more than that. It is an enthusiastic response to a call for a need, for a mission. But it is inaccurate. As a grammarian, and there were more than one of us, it should have been called Hinenu. Here we are. We are the ones who sold lemonade in little silver to buy food. We are the ones who donated their religious school tzedakah coins to help pay for a professional Ukrainian-speaking crisis counselor. We are the ones who made sure to bring checks to the temple so that I could take them to Poland, or who went online to make a donation. We are the ones who donated clothes and schlepped to Walmart and buy them out of underwear. We are the ones who emptied the shelves of their Motrin, their Tylenol, and aspirin. We, among so many other rabbis and their congregations, brought more than 4,000 pounds of stuff. We are the ones, among millions of others, who helped total strangers begin new lives. Hinenu. Here we are indeed, and our presence continues to be keenly felt and deeply appreciated by those who had to flee their home in the blink of an eye. And finally, one last story that lets you know how our work and effort and support has made a difference. On one particularly physically and emotionally draining day, 3 rabbis and I rented those little scooters, you know, those little scooters that you can tootle around, and we tootled around Krakow. And of course, we had to take a picture. A young woman was walking in the park where we were, and we asked her to take our picture, and she did willingly. I tried to say thank you in Polish, which I totally butchered, by the way, and she said something innocuous, but on reflection, really quite meaningful. She said in her native language, "Nie Polska, Ukrainian." I don't speak Polish, I only speak Ukrainian. Here in Krakow was a Ukrainian refugee, safe, well-clothed, happy to be safe from the dangers and death that only a few weeks ago had enveloped her. In the blink of an eye, her life changed. And in the blink of an eye, so did ours. In Poland, I brought all of you with me. And in Poland, in a way, we all remain. None of us blinked when we had the opportunity to do something profound and life-changing. I brought your love, your care, and your concern with me, and I implanted it into the hearts of people that I reached. Your Shem Tov, your good name, now reverberates at the border crossings that we were at, in Peshemel, in the crisis centers, in the streets of Krakow, in the joy of a Seder, and in the tangibles of aspirin, underwear, and stuffed animals. When Moses led the Jews out of Egypt, almost immediately the Jews started kvetching. They wanted to return back to Egypt for the good old days of melons and cucumbers. Their minds were filled with regrets about leaving Egypt, since now they had to build lives that they never knew. Today, Ukrainians are building their lives, and from what I can tell, are not complaining that they are in Poland. And the only reason they aren't complaining is Hinenu. Here we were. Here we helped. Here our spirit remains. We, as a temple, responded in kindness and sympathy and love, and we did so in the blink of an eye. And that is why this trip was life-changing for me, and I hope for you too. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Let's continue back in our Siddur, page 586. For the Aleinu, please rise.
Aleinu l'shambeach l'adon hakol, l'atid gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu b'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchalkeinu kahem, v'gohor aleinu k'chol
hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim,
לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please remain standing, if you would, as we bring to mind those whom death has taken from us. This evening we remember Chioni Bakani, Nancy Turner Berman, Rose Berg, Isidore Berger, Isidore Bay, Adolf Bialik, Edward Carlin, Abraham Cohen, John Costanzo, Harold Dobrin, Dr. Thomas Emmering, Alfred Feibel, Barry Fisher, Seal Friedman, Morris Gelb, Jenny Davis Goldberg, Herman Holtzman, Amalie Jacobson, Jean Jacobson, Bev Lerner, Marjorie Miller, Jacob Niederhofer, Savannah Oxfeld, Murray Revitz, Edward Rosenthal, Max Singer, Benjamin Snyder, Richard Topper, Ida Zlotkin, and are there any other names of people that you'd like mentioned for the Kaddish?
Yes, Eddie O'Dowd.
Please join me in the Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chal beit Yisrael, v'galau v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei al-mayach, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal u'shemei d'kudusha, le'ela min kal birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, v'miran bi'alama v'imru. Yehei shalama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen.
You may be seated. Oh, sorry. Our temple president, Wendy Slaughter.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight to hear what Rabbi Sai had to say and to pray with us. I followed him along on Facebook. I saw everything that was going on. I spoke to Stella often, and it is indeed inspirational that he went and came back safely. And he's telling a little fib, because when he told me he was going, I did not say, go.
Oh.
I said, are you sure? Because of obvious reasons, the safety reasons. And then when he explained what he was doing, then I said, go. I knew Stella wanted him to. I knew Sarah Ann did not. And he went anyway. So I would like to thank Rabbi Sy and Cantor Marnie for leading us in prayer tonight. I would like to thank our ushers for this evening, Harry and Sharon Silverman. And I would also like to recognize the board members that are here this evening: Roy Dresner, Barbara Bascombe, Al Goldman, Jim Aaron, Rebecca Levin, and Sharon and Harry Silverman, who are both on the board, and a past president that's with us tonight, Cindy Singer. The onik tonight is prepared, not by you, by her, by Stella, and sponsored by the Stanways, and I can't wait to taste some of the little goodies you have. A little exciting news, on Monday night, besides having our board meeting, we are having AED CPR training for the board by one of our congregants, Beth Knotts, who trained us a few years ago, and it's absolutely time for us to do it again. And look forward to June 10th, summer. That will be our first outdoor service, and we are having a beach service. We're doing it again, and then we're coming back here for Shabbat under the stars. So more details will be forthcoming in Elijah and on the website. Shabbat Shalom.
At Passover, we don't have challah. We do have matzah, but we don't have matzah here. By the way, the oneg Shabbat is kosher for Passover. I know some people, what is it? You want to bring me something? Okay, bring me a piece of matzah. So these two Jews walk into a bar. Hang on. She'll get a piece of matzah. By the way, our closing song is Odiavo, and it's on page 657. I'll just wait until Stella brings us a little matzah, and then we'll do a matzah motzi. I will tell you that I would be a total failure as a rabbi if it wasn't for Stella. Total failure. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Yeah, Cantor. Our closing song, page 657.
Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, peace will come to us and to everyone, peace to us and to all the world. Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odyavo Shalom Aleinu, Odibo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yifunecha.
May God's face shine over all of us and be gracious to us all.
Yisrael Adonai panav elecha v'yasiv lecha shalom.
May God's face shine over all of us and give us all the blessing of peace. Shabbat shalom. What happened to the sound? Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.